Hello and welcome back to the Engerati studio here at European Utility Week. I'm joined by Jean-Paul Piques, who's the Marketing Director EMEA at Itron. Jean-Paul, thank you very much for taking the time to be here in the studio. Probably quite nice to take some pressure off your feet after 2 days. Jean-Paul, we were talking about off air a little bit about what you see happening in the industry. You've been in the industry for 20 years, and you mentioned something that really struck me, especially based on other interviews we've had. The need for this industry to try and remove some of the complexity, either in messaging and things around the consumer as well.
Certainly.
Yeah.
So I think, I'm looking at this market, and like you said, it's been 20 years. So I think after 20 years, you should be able to decode what's right and what's wrong about the way we come across as a company, as an industry. And quite frankly, even here, I'm walking down the aisle, like I said, and sometimes I wonder what is these people doing, what are they selling, and what's the value proposition? So looking back at ourselves, I'm thinking, what can I do to simplify the experience of our customers, and obviously, ultimately, simplify the experience of you and me as the end consumer. So that's, I think, our duty as a company and as an industry to clarify what is it we're doing. Saying that we do this only for operational efficiency and cost savings is not going to be enough. There's not enough.
And it's quite industry-centric, that statement, isn't it? Because if you go to the end consumer, hey, we're doing this because we want to have operational efficiency, I would go, well, that's great for you. What does it mean for me?
Exactly. And so exactly. So all these years, we've been focusing on specifications. And by the time we finish one specification, the Dutch market is a good example. We started with NTA, then with DSMR1. By the time DSMR was finished, we were already working on 2, and so on and so on. And now we're like 8 years later, and we are really not started. And in the meantime, the consumers are saying, what's in for me? There's not much for me, me as a person. So I think my duty here is to say, no, there is something for you, and this is what it is. And so, okay, just one voice in the industry will probably not be enough.
Yeah.
But at least you have to do your part.
I think that message about connecting with the customer was starting to come through in some of the other interviews I did. So you're not
I'm not alone.
You're not alone. You'll be pleased to know. But the one thing that did come through with all of those interviews, where I asked the question, well, how do you do that, and whose responsibility is it? Is it the utilities' responsibility? Is it the meter manufacturer's responsibility, or is it some sort of collective thing that needs to be done?
Yes.
In which case, how do you coordinate it?
Yes, I think from where we stand as Itron, we always refrain from talking to the end consumer, because our DNA, our DNA is really not to interfere in the process, and I think this is still valid as a statement. At the same time, I think we have to collaborate and influence, if we can, bringing value-added message that the utility can relay, if they wish so, and by doing this, probably engage more. The reason I became aware of the necessity to start and speak out is we see too much opt-out or pushbacks in consumer groups, vocal minorities sometimes, but vocal enough. And in reality, the message becomes very confused. And utilities are not always used to dealing on this media, over social media. I'm amazed at the number of social media that are relaying information, many of which are real, many of which also are biases or interpretation of the reality.
Well, it's one of the powers of social media, though, isn't it? You can quite easily set up a pressure group, and then you're off and running. And if you've got the right people involved, it is interesting what you say is, sometimes when you're at these industry events, the DNA of an industry is to focus on everything's rosy, everything's possible. We've finished smart meters in Sweden, we've done it in Italy, it's all fine. It'd be good to understand what you think are, or you know, are some of the issues that are being raised at a consumer level, where the pushback is coming, and how you think that message could be overcome.
I would take an analogy. Right now, I mean, what is the fundamental reason why a German customer, an affluent German customer, would have different needs from an affluent British customer or an affluent French customer? What is the fundamental reason? I don't think there's a good answer to this. Similarly, is there a fundamental reason why a low-income or green, French green, would think the application he needs to save the planet, if that is so wishes, are so fundamentally different in Italy, Germany, Holland, and so on? Nobody seems to want to answer the question. So the result is we go nation by nation with a product design which is a bit like you're trying to sell one t-shirt to that country, whether you're tall, small, thick, thin, it doesn't matter. The t-shirt is going to be one size. Now, what industry has successfully marketed a product like this? That reminds me of a Ford T in the 1920s. You could have a car, but it has to be black.
Yes.
That was a long time ago. So now when you look at the electronics and the sort of things we're trying to do around efficiency and automation, I don't think it's likely that you're going to find a one-size-fits-all solution by country. Now, the way the specs have been organized and the mandates and everything, this is pushing in one direction. Obviously, the market is probably here somewhere, to the right or to the left. And having not done a segmentation of the different categories of customer you're trying to address, or not done it consciously, is probably a limiting factor.
So what you're saying is that if you can understand the customer profiles better, you could, for want of a better word, sell the idea of what the smart grid does differently based on whether someone's a really affluent customer who, I don't want to speak for them, may or may not actually care how much the bills are, as opposed to someone who's a bit more cost conscious, and then you might get more penetration.
Exactly.
And has anybody actually done any comparative analysis whether that would work?
So, in fact, the US, after now 5 or 6 years of effective rollouts on large numbers, is rewinding the tape, and some of them, especially because of opt-out and pushbacks, are starting to think maybe we should do this segmentation and looking segment by segment, what is it we could offer to differentiate and make the customer experience more effective, more pleasurable. So I think this is happening. That's why, since we are on the other side of the pond, we can learn from this and inspire ourselves, and maybe not jump to conclusion, but at least consider it in the thought process.
Because that to me would be, like you said, quite an interesting exercise where, and you're right, that then fundamental messaging to someone who is very green and cost conscious is not going to be any different. You just need to translate it into the constituent languages. You don't need to change the message every time. It could be quite a big saving.
The Greens don't want to save money. Other people want to save money and will be engaged by savings, but these people want to save the planet. They want to save energy for the sake of saving energy.
Yeah, for them it's all about the renewables coming on grid.
Exactly.
Rather than actually...
So it's a bigger picture. It's a bigger picture. The low income, they want to control the budget, they want to protect their family. If they can do something with the environment, it's nice, but it's just an afterthought. The affluent, like you said, they can afford it, whatever happens.
Yeah, by and large. Unfortunately, not in that category myself. Jean-Paul, we're coming to the end of our time here in the interview, and it's been a pleasure talking to you. But I want to ask you a different question, but a slightly more personal question. You've had now nearly 2.5 days on your feet at this event. You're looking remarkably well for it. What for you personally has been a highlight? What's something that you've seen or heard that after 20 years you've gone, oh, that's interesting, or that could take us in a new direction, or that's a new product that we haven't seen before?
Yes. We have launched what we call ecosystems, so I'm very convinced that it will be not one company serving all these needs. There's just too much out there, and so collaboration is needed. And certainly our products are emphasizing this notion of collaboration in general, but I've been very excited to see that PLC, one of the topologies and solutions, is moving into very nice high band, high speed solution. And for many years it was low speed and sort of trailing behind everything else. And I see that some players are coming with very, very interesting solutions. Yes, that's been for me the highlight.
Excellent. Thank you for that, and thank you again for making the time to be here. And thank you as well for watching. There are obviously many more interviews on engerati.com, as well as white papers and our research reports that I've referenced in a few other interviews. So I hope you enjoyed this interview, and thank you for watching.